Hello and welcome to a new video. We are today at Tesla in Holzgerlingen near Stuttgart, and we're picking up the new Model 3 Highland that my boss ordered. So we're just gonna see what the delivery process is like. It was already wild today. Tesla called this morning and told him that they don't know where the car is and we can't pick it up, and like 20 minutes later they called again and they said, oh, we found your car, you can come and pick it up, never mind. So yeah, that's the fun thing that Tesla did today. So let's just go in there and have a look what they tell us and what it is and what's going on, and yeah, let's just see. This also is Tesla's biggest delivery location in Germany or in Europe, I think, and it really is not that small. It's the first time I'm here to see that, and yeah, it's huge, and they got a lot of cars in there with chargers and everything, so they don't have to park outside like those test cars, I guess. BTB, yeah, that's test drive. So we're just standing here inside the delivery hall, I would say, and it really is quite big. I mean, look just at this huge Tesla logo there. That's wild. And a lot of cars here. You got a nice lounge in there with some iMacs to configure your car, I guess. And some show cars over there, Model S, Model X, to have a look at them. That's pretty cool. So yeah, huge building to get your car here. So we got the car, and of course we gotta remove the screen protector, so go on. Very nice, just as it's supposed to be. Now we can use the car, and interesting what music Tesla is playing when you're getting the car. A classic meme Audi crash with 300 kilometers an hour music. That's not disturbing at all. But yeah, let's have a quick look around the car. So the configuration is red on white, nice ultra red, and this really looks so good. I mean, really awesome car. And also the white interior is just the best selection you can have, really. So that's awesome. Nice front up here and looking pretty good. I don't see any damages or anything. It's a bit wet, but I think it came in this morning, so that's all right. Yeah, it's a made in China model, as I think every Model 3 in Europe by now, and it still has the summer tires, even though they said it should have the winter tires. Yeah, the Tesla woman is just looking where the tires are and what's going on with them, and if they put them on or not, I'm not sure. We're still being charged. We're currently at like 33-ish%, I think. Also interesting, you can see a screw in here. Yeah, nice Michelin E-Primacy tires, and they are 235/45 R18, just the same size as mine, so nothing changed there. Yeah, looking pretty good. That's only water, everything fine, and the nice new Tesla badge. They are getting the car ready for takeoff. It's getting the winter tires, and they also activated, so we can load up the driver profile from the Tesla account. Tires in here squeaking as heck on this like rubber floor. Beautiful. Alright, we set up the car, or we set the car up, whatever. That's all working fine now. Looking good. it also wants to download an update because it doesn't even have the holiday update yet. So that's interesting. Yeah, let's turn it on for the first time and get to the car that I'm driving back. Yeah. Alright, and here we go. It's already preconditioning the battery as we're heading to a supercharger because it only has like 34% state of charge. And what you always need to do is disable the warning sound for speed limits, because that's always on by default, because it has to be for EU regulations. It's also calibrating cameras right now. And that's the reason why it's so cold in here. Door is open all the time. Okay, so that's pretty nice. So much for the delivery, except for them first not finding the car, then forgetting to install the winter tires. It didn't even go that bad, so and that infotainment is so fast. That's crazy. Not used to that. Yeah. I'm gonna jump into that blue Peugeot 208. Video of that trip should be online already.
In 200 Metern rechts abbiegen auf Max-Eid-Straße.
Sure will do. So yeah, let's jump in that car, and more thoughts to this car coming up. Alright, so you've seen pretty much the delivery process. Now it's about, I don't know, some weeks later, and I had the chance to drive this beauty for about a week now. Go on a longer trip with it. The videos about that are coming in the future pretty soon, maybe next week and the week after or something around that. And yeah, I got some thoughts about it. Generally, I have to say I love this car. It's so much fun to drive. It looks so good. The new front is awesome in comparison to mine. It's so much more modern, just like the rear end, which is also looking so much better than mine, I have to say. You can see the bumper down low. That's so much more defined, I would say, and sporty, of course, way better looking. Also, overall, the car drives so good. It's a lot quieter than mine. I didn't even think that was possible, but it is. Especially in lower speeds, it's so much better. Then also high speed is pretty good. The suspension is so comfortable. It's not as rumbly, I would say. It's a bit more wafty over some light bumps or height differences in the road. It just feels a lot better. The whole interior is, of course, also really good. That's a perfect choice with the red on the outside and the white seats on the inside. Inside we got the new ambient lighting. That's RGB. You can see it in red here. Looks really good, I would say. I really like it. Makes the car feel much more premium. And also just all of the materials. After driving around in the car for about a week, you just notice all the details and all the little spots that have such high quality materials everywhere. I didn't find any piece that's hard plastic, that's not like something behind the screen or up here behind the mirror where it just has to be that to like be a real finished product, I would say. But all the areas that you touch, even I can't open up because my phone's over there, even the area here up front feels not cheap. It's just high quality everywhere. The door pockets, the center console, of course the roof, which has its enormous glass roof, which is awesome. Yeah, that's all just so high quality. That's so good. That feels just so much more expensive than some way more expensive cars. It feels really premium. Yeah, that's really good. And of course, we got a lot of changes on the inside with the indicator buttons and no stalks behind the wheel. That's unusual, to say the least, but mostly it's not that bad. It's way better than I thought of it first. And I told you that in my first impressions with the test car I had from Tesla for half an hour or so. But yeah, after now living about a week with it, it's no problem at all. In the beginning, I kind of had to get used to it, of course, as it's with everything that's new and changed. But yeah, after driving it for 2 or 3 days, that's pretty much in my flesh and blood, and the muscle memory is almost there. It's only when I'm really not focused, but more like if everything runs automatically in my head, that I try to tap the indicator stalk and not the button. But other than that, the indicators are really my least problem with not having stalks. What's kind of not so well thought out, I would say, is the high beams, because this car has the automatic dynamic high beams. I'm gonna get to them in just a sec. And if you enable Autopilot, which you do by double clicking the right scroll wheel, it always enables auto high beams. Always. If you drove with Autopilot and disabled auto high beams, and then kind of, I don't know, did a lane change or something like that, and you re-enable Autopilot, it also re-enables the auto high beams. And you have to disable them again because you're absolutely blinding oncoming traffic, especially oncoming trucks that are on the highway on the other lane, and only their cabin is above the center split thing, the center wall, and the car can't see the headlights from the trucks, only the top mini lights, and it doesn't recognize them. Then it just blinds them head on, and that's not really that good. So you always have to disable the high beams, the auto high beams, but to do that, you have to push the high beam button. And the high beam button flashes oncoming traffic as long as the high beams aren't actually on. Not only the automatic feature is on, but the high beams themselves. If they aren't lit up, you're gonna flash oncoming traffic. If they are on, you're gonna disable auto high beams. You also disable auto high beams when you flash them, but then you flash everyone, and that's just not too good. So you always have to look over and see if your high beams are currently active, and if yes, you can push the button, and if no, then you can't. But you can't enable Autopilot and instantly disable the auto high beams, because there's just no way to do that. And maybe that's a German or European problem that Tesla didn't run into yet, or I don't know, but that's kind of weird. Or maybe it's only a dynamic high beam problem. I'm not sure, but yeah, that kind of wasn't too good, I would say. Then the dynamic high beams. They should automatically turn on in a way. You might have seen that in my video, in my last video from like 2 weeks ago or so, where I got the update for my 2021 Model 3, where it enabled the dynamic high beams. That works really well, and it disables the high beams for the area that oncoming traffic is in. And that's a really useful feature to not blind oncoming traffic. But this car kinda does it worse than mine. And with this being 3 years newer, I would have expected it to be kind of better than mine. But the headlights in my 2021 model are much more high resolution than those are. So it can enable and disable the auto high beams or the dynamic high beams more into detail and more specific for a specific location. And that does that as well, but just not as good. And I also thought that it was not as bright as my auto high beams. But later in this video, I'm gonna put you a recording of pretty much the same route that I drove with my car, maybe even with a comparison to my car, to how the auto high beams and dynamic high beams work and how it looks and how bright it is. Maybe you can see that on video. It's probably good for comparison. All right, so we are back on our adaptive headlight test loop, and it might be that there is a bit more traffic than in the last video, or in the video that I tested it with my personal 2021 Model 3, but for comparison that should be good enough. You can already see it work there. It's doing some stuff, but yeah, I'm kind of going in here in between because there's some more stuff following this clip and I kind of needed to push that in between. So yeah, just so you know. Yeah, you can see the headlights are working and the matrix function is working as well. This car can do it even longer than mine could already. So that's quite cool. And that works out pretty well. So let's get through here. But it feels like, or I know there are less pixels in those headlights here. So it can dim that much in detail, as I said before. But let's see and compare if the high beams are brighter or dimmer than in the 2021 model with the previous headlights. So yeah, we're just gonna go the same route as last time, and then we'll see if we see any difference in that in direct comparison. And you will see this because I can show you both clips, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see about that. Also, I have to add, I forgot that in all of the other parts, the trunk lid is not opening as far as in the 2021 model. So that's not so good. The trunk motors are way better. But yeah, it doesn't open just as far. I always worry about hitting my head on like the side of it, and again it turns on and recognizes cars and turns on again. So yeah, that trunk lid is kind of a not quite an improvement, I would say. And also by having the rear lights fixed to the trunk lid, it's wider when open. So also there I'm kind of worried to hit my head on it, but I never did hit my head on it. I just felt like I'm almost gonna hit it. So yeah, that's just kind of a feeling about that. Yeah, right now it's turned off, so we don't have any headlights, any adaptive high beams here. But I think my car did that as well, or so. So nice funky cat there. And I think that even was an Cannonball car. That's funny. Gotta hit them up and know who is living right next to me from Cannonball. Alright, we're about to leave the city again, or the village maybe, and there's someone coming up and it's nicely adjusting the high beams. Another thing I wanted to say, but let's wait for the next village. Let's have a look and concentrate on the lights. So it's pretty bright here, I would say. But yeah, maybe just a tad darker than mine. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, but still more of a fan of mine. I could leave mine on for longer without thinking about it than in this car. I've seen that on my recent trip. But yeah. So, coming into the village, we can see it dimming for oncoming traffic, so that's all working well, and dimming back up. Yeah, what I wanted to add, this car, of course, doesn't have any ultrasonic sensors, and mine has them. So this car relies on the cameras, on vision-only systems, and it also has the high-fidelity park assist, which works quite well, but just not as good as the centimeter or inch measurements that you get with the ultrasonics. But I also have this nice recording here. You can see it really nicely shows all the lines and everything that's recognized around the car, and as soon as you start driving, it goes back to the 3D view that we're used to. So that's pretty nice. It's way more usable than before on vision only, but still not as good as the ultrasonic sensors are. And there's the bus in my turning lane. I don't care. Let's just stop behind him. Yeah, so that's all about the automatic high beams and headlights. So yeah, I would say that was hopefully a quite good comparison. Let's get back to me in the sun, sweating away. So let's go over from the left side of the steering wheel with all of the lights to the right side of the steering wheel, where you have to double press the button, the scroll wheel, to enable autopilot. Normally, not a big problem, works pretty much as well as the stock, except for when it doesn't recognize you press the button, because then let's say you drive on autopilot, you want to change lanes, so you tap your indicator button, you change the lane, autopilot disables, but cruise control stays active. You change the lane, you are in the new lane, and you push the right scroll wheel again to re-enable autopilot. But then it only recognizes one press because it somehow doesn't recognize the second. And suddenly all your assistants are disabled and you start braking. And it takes about a second or two for you to notice that that happened. And then you have to re-enable autopilot and re-accelerate to your speed. And that's just not good. I don't know. Because it's the same to enable and to disable the autopilot and cruise control by pressing once. So that's kind of bad. Thinking about that, I kind of like the stock more, where you push down once or twice for cruise control or autopilot to enable it and push it up once to disable, because you then never can accidentally disable when you want to re-engage something, because pressing once again while cruise control is active just does nothing for my car. So that's just a bit better. Also, you know that you can put up the cruise control speed by 5 kilometers an hour, or probably also miles per hour, while scrolling fast on the scroll wheel. And while doing that, I often accidentally pushed the wiper button and then it dry wiped the windscreen. That's also maybe not the best thing to do if you want to save your wipers. And of course, it's just not what you want when you want to set the speed. So that's just not so the best. The haptics of the new steering wheel are really good. I really like it. It's a bit slimmer, I think. It's a bit thinner to grab than mine, but it's just as small, so that's really good. I like the small size of the wheel. Materials are really good. Also, you honk while, or yeah, you can honk when pushing the steering wheel in the middle, not like in the Model S where you have to find the correct button or push the half of the steering wheel or touch on the half of the steering wheel for it to quickly honk multiple times. That's a really good thing. The buttons on the steering wheel, while we are at it, the steering wheel buttons are actually haptic buttons. So it's pretty much similar to MacBook trackpads, for example. They feel like you press them, like they are a real button, like the new door button, for example. That really is a real button. But in reality, they just vibrate when pushing them and simulate a pressing of them. That's really well made, and that feels really good. Also, the area that you can touch to get the right function is large enough so it feels like it's a button. I felt in the Volvo that you've seen some weeks before, the Volvo EX30, that had also haptic and physical buttons mixed together. So it really was a physical button, but it sensed where your finger was to select which button you wanted to press. And those areas that you had to hit with your finger were pretty small. The areas here are pretty large, and that works out pretty good. I only had, I don't know, 5% at maximum that I had to press the indicator button again because it didn't recognize me pressing it. So that's a really good statistic for that kind of button. The cameras are good. You can see the lane change cameras that automatically turn on when you enable the indicators. That works just as well as in my car, maybe a bit faster because it's got the new media control unit, the new infotainment computer. But other than that, that works just like mine. But the cameras are hardware 4 cameras in comparison to mine that are hardware 3, and they should have better colors, and they do in daytime, but at night they are way dimmer than my cameras. So at night you just see less than with the old cameras. The Autopilot recognizes everything just as well. At least it felt like that. It drove really good also at night, no problem there. But for me as a driver, using the camera to see my dead blind spots are just a bit darker with the new cameras compared to the old ones. The reversing camera is just as good as before. Also, we just talked about the blind spot cameras. This car also has the red LEDs that turn on as soon as someone is in your dead blind spot. I always want to say dead spot because that's what it's called in German. Yeah, if someone pulls up behind you or next to and behind you, there's a little red LED that turns on to notify you about someone that's there, that you shouldn't do a lane change now. And if you start to indicate while someone's in your blind spot, it starts flashing. So you really notice, stop, there is something. And if you try to pull over, then also the steering wheel vibrates, and I think it even beeps at you. So all of that works just as it should. The speaker system, we should talk about that because that is awesome. It's even better than in my car, and my speaker system is already really good. But in my car, I do have to put the bass a bit higher in the equalizer so it sounds full. And if I put the bass in this car even 0.1 up, then it's already too much for me at least. And I like my music balanced to fill all the frequencies and not be too bass heavy or too top heavy, too treble heavy. Yeah. So really, really well balanced sound system in there. Sounds awesome. It doesn't even have the extra subwoofer because that's, as always, only in the long range and performance models, which at the time of this recording, this car only has its long range model available. The performance ludicrous model is gonna be coming maybe in some months, but we don't have them yet, so I can't tell you anything about that. I can tell you that the long range model with its extra subwoofer sounds really, really bass heavy. And that's almost too much for me for normal everyday driving. If you want to go party hard in your car, then it's great. But for everyday driving and all of that, I prefer not to have the subwoofer, which is kind of weird. But yeah, sounds just so good. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Up next, we got, of course, the cooled seats and heated seats as well. The rear seats are only heated at the sides now. The center seat isn't heated anymore. The front seats are, of course, heated as before, just as the steering wheel. But the front two seats are also cooled, and that's so good. The weather, luckily, is really good in the last days, and the cooled seat always turns on as soon as I get in the car, because it just wants to cool me down a bit faster, do that more efficiently, and it feels really, really comfortable. It's not too much, and in auto mode it also disables pretty quick again, but yeah, it feels really good. And if it's really, really hot out, you don't stick to your seat and you aren't all sweaty over it, but it just cools you down slightly so you're not sweating too much. And I could also remove my hoodie because it's really warm, but I have a cooled seat, so I don't have to. I can. So that's really nice. The new center console is pretty good. Cup holders are better than before because they really hold your cup and don't let it fly around like before. You can also close the cup holders up. That's really nice. And you can close your center console from the front just as before. That also works really good. Your center armrest that you can pull up is now magnetic and not with a clip anymore. And your glove box is also magnetic and not with a clip anymore. Still operated through the display, so yeah, no change there. But it's really loud when you close it. I mean, listen to this. That's kind of crazy. So if you have someone in the back sleeping, you don't want to open and close the glove box because it's just so loud. They would wake up. Some little things I noticed, and I don't know why they are, and I know Cybertruck does that as well. If you open the door while the window is fully down, the window comes up just a bit. And when you close the door back up, then it goes all the way down. Don't know why, but has some reason, I'm sure. And also the rear windows only go down maybe half, maybe a bit below half, but that's not too good. I think that's because of that height here. That has to go down here, and there's just not so much door. But I prefer windows that go further down in the back. So that's a bummer. It feels like it's even going down less than in my car. So little tiny downgrade there. Charging performance is just as we're used to, no change there. Driving performance is good, is comfortable, but not quite as fast as the 2021 or 2 or 3 model, because this car is only going up to 203 kilometers an hour only. That's a really German problem. No one else you would have that problem, but on the German Autobahn, you really like to go fast sometimes. And I had 2 or maybe 3 situations where I would have liked it to have those 25 kilometers an hour more, like my car has with its 228 kilometers an hour. I think the long range, is it the same? I'm not sure. I think it's the same. The performance model, I think, should go up to 260-ish. So that's no problem at all. That's just how it was before, I think. So that's all cool. So that's about the driving performance. And charging 170, almost 180 kilowatts I saw in this particular car. That's really good. I like that a lot. And it charges fast and no problem at all. All right, I knew I forgot some things, and I just had the opportunity to drive my friend's Model 3 again, which is same exact model as mine. It's only 2 days older, but otherwise exactly the same, to record some B-roll for this that you might have seen already. And we noticed some build quality things that I had to mention now again. So the whole door, if you open and close the door, it's just so much more full. The door thump is just much more high quality. You feel that the door has so much more engineering inside of it. It's heavier. It's probably also a lot of sound dampening that's in there. So it just feels and sounds heavier, and through that also more high quality. And also, I just noticed after driving this car for a week and now going back to the old Model 3 or old Model 3, the pre-refresh for just some minutes of driving, that I really much prefer this steering wheel to mine, because mine feels kinda clunky. At least the spokes, the center spokes, they feel more clunky than those. Those are a bit slimmer, a bit more tactile, and also actually I think I kinda prefer the indicator buttons to the stalks. Only the indicator buttons. All of the rest can go back to the stalks, but the indicators, because I like to drive with only one hand on the steering wheel, and when I'm turning into a corner or into a roundabout, then my hand is on the side at the spoke of the steering wheel, and so I can just blindly tap the indicator button without having to grab the steering wheel with the other hand and then going up and pushing the stalk, or pushing the stalk with the other hand, which would be even weirder. So yeah, kind of like that. Fits more my kind of driving style, but maybe that's just a personal thing. I don't know. All right, so I would say that's been pretty much all I had to say. I think that's all my thoughts. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, then I might add that after this clip or before this clip, I don't know, or maybe only just down in the comments. So yeah, I would say that's been it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.